Good afternoon, class. My name is Jacob, and this is my Persuasive Speech. Today, I will be talking to you guys about the benefits of learning how to drive a car with a manual transmission when you first learn how to drive. Um, I think oftentimes manual transmissions are just considered to be outdated or considered to be unnecessary, and people even view them as a distraction sometimes. But I'd like to argue that um, learning how to drive a manual transmission and even driving a manual transmission on a regular day-to-day basis is a very beneficial factor to add into driving. Um, First, learning to drive stick is beneficial because it causes you to focus more on driving and less on what's going on around you. Um, there are so many distractions in driving, whether it be your passengers, whether it be your phone or your music, or just whatever else is going on around you, other drivers can be very distracting. And I think a manual transmission really causes you to focus on your car, focus on what you're doing and how you're driving. And I think that can be very beneficial and an added safety to driving. Um, Driving a manual transmission also causes you to learn more about your vehicle and the way it operates. I know that in my own experience, learning how to drive a manual transmission, you are in control of the car, and so you decide what gear it is in, and you have to learn the optimal gear for different situations, whether that be getting on the freeway or going up a hill or coming down a large hill. And so you're in charge of correcting the car and taking care of it. I think this can even be beneficial when translated into driving an automatic transmission because it can help you to diagnose the car if you feel that the transmission's not shifting correctly. Um, Oftentimes, all these automatic transmissions nowadays have major computers involved, and so one of the main problems with a lot of automatic transmissions is that the computer, basically the brain of the transmission, ceases to work, ceases to make correct decisions, and so it will shift wrong. It will shift into the wrong gear at the wrong time, and make many different mistakes that can be a safety issue. And if you drive a manual transmission, you'll not only be able to diagnose those things in an automatic, but you can avoid them entirely when driving a manual transmission. Um, and I know that many people might think that um, driving a manual transmission is something that's of the past, and we've moved on from that and we've evolved past it. Um, but I would argue, I've been to 7 different countries on 5 different continents, and every single one that I've been to, they have had almost entirely manual transmission cars, whether it be rentals, whether it be taxis, whether it be personal cars on a day-to-day basis. Um, the majority of the world still drives manual transmissions, and so just one reason that I think is applicable across the board to know how to drive manual transmission is to be able to, um, transport yourself in another country. I think another reason it's very important is that you never know what kind of emergency situation you're going to be in. And I know that my father, when he convinced me to learn how to drive a manual transmission, he told me that you never know if you're going to get in a car accident and you have to drive someone else's car to get to the hospital, and their car could be a manual transmission. And although it is um, a very hypothetical scenario, it's important to know that it is a possibility, and it's nice to know that you're prepared and that you're able um, to take care of yourself in that situation. In conclusion, I really do believe that it's beneficial for all drivers to learn stick shift, and I think that it's best learned first thing. I think it's best learned as a first option, and then automatic transmission would come later. Just because I've seen in many cases people who've driven an automatic transmission for years and have never driven a manual, and they try to get into the car and they're incapable of giving their focus to something other than the bare minimum. And I think that that's because they're used to focusing on so many other things while they're driving, and I believe that's very unsafe. Um, and let's face it, we've all seen people who are eating while they're driving, who are texting while they're driving, who are shaving while they're driving, who are putting makeup on while they're driving, looking into the mirror. And I can tell you right now that if those same people were in a manual transmission car and they were focusing on shifting and driving smoothly, they would not have time to be doing stupid stuff like that. They would be much more focused on the road. And I know that I am not the kind of guy that wants to be on the freeway next to someone who's shaving and looking in the mirror. So that's my 2 cents, and I really believe that I know that as I am becoming a parent soon, even though it's many years off, I will be teaching all of my children how to drive a manual transmission vehicle because I do believe that it is important.